Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to session number 317 of Kevin Reed's A Course in Miracles. Alrighty, we are in the Workbook for Students, Part 2. Alright, we are looking at the questions that are contained in the second part of the workbook. Just as a note of reference, this question comes right after lesson 290. So it's question number 8, and it is, what is the real world? Alrighty. The real world is a symbol, like the rest of what perception offers. Yet it stands for what is opposite to what you made. Your world is seen through eyes of fear and brings the witnesses of terror to your mind. The real world cannot be perceived except through eyes forgiveness blesses. So they see a world where terror is impossible and witnesses to fear cannot be found. The real world holds a counterpart for each unhappy thought reflected in your world. A sure correction for the sights of fear and the sounds of battle which your world contains. The real world shows a world seen differently, through quiet eyes, and with a mind at peace. Nothing but rest is there. There are no cries of pain and sorrow heard, for nothing there remains outside forgiveness, and the sights are gentle. Only happy sights and sounds can reach the mind that has forgiven itself. What need has such a mind for thoughts of death, attack, and murder? What can it perceive surrounding it but safety, love, and joy? What is there it would choose to be condemned? And what is there that it would judge against? The world it sees arises from a mind at peace within itself. No danger lurks in anything it sees, for it is kind, and only kindness does it look upon. The real world is a symbol that the dream of sin and guilt is over. God's Son no longer sleeps. His waking eyes perceive the sure reflection of his Father's love, the certain promise that he is redeemed. The real world signifies the end of time, for its perception makes time purposeless. The Holy Spirit has no need of time when it has served his purpose. Now he waits but that one instant more for God to take his final step, and time has disappeared, taking perception with it as it goes, leaving but the truth to be itself. That instant is our goal, for it contains the memory of God. And as we look upon a world forgiven, it is he who calls to us and comes to take us home, reminding us of our identity, which our forgiveness has restored to us. Okay, so as we go through these 5 paragraphs, we'll notice the repetition of the word forgiveness. All right, there's an emphasis on it, and there's a repetition of the word. Okay. So, And that the idea of forgiveness, as I've said ad nauseum, I'm going to imagine. All right. The process of forgiveness is noticing that I'm projecting guilt. I'm pointing the finger at somebody. All right. And then telling myself, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to live with that reaction, with those thoughts. There must be a better way of looking at things. All right, so I notice I'm projecting guilt. I don't want it anymore. I come inside, so to speak, to the place in the mind where the Holy Spirit resides, another symbol, a symbol of unconditional love, a symbol of the connection, right, to our true existence, the mediator, the bridge, right, the memory of who we are, all those symbols, all those words. We go into that place in the mind and we ask, help me to see this correctly. I'm willing to see correctly. I'm willing to have my perception changed. And then let it be. And in my experience, sometimes you need a couple of applications of the process. And that's okay, because we're instantly afraid of everything. We're even afraid of going to the place where unconditional love resides. We're afraid we're going to go poof, we're going to go crazy, we're going to lose everything. The ego is very clever, and we are the ego. Right? The ego is not like a separate entity. We are the ego. When we choose to believe we're separate, we have aligned ourselves with the ego. And we make things like the universe and everything in it. All right? So the real world is a symbol. And like the rest of what perception offers, everything is a symbol. Yet it stands for what is opposite to what you made. Right? So I made everything in the world. I made it up. And the real world stands as the opposite of those things. All right? And in case I didn't finish on forgiveness, because my mind goes off like fireworks on the 4th of July. All right. Just remember that process of forgiveness is so important. This is the point we're trying to get to, is the real world, where everything reflects peace, love, security, all right, kindness, all those good things. All right, the real world is a symbol, like the rest of what perception offers. Yet it stands for what is opposite to what you made. All right. Now, our world is seen through the eyes of fear. The moment I believe I completed the separation from oneness, I'm scared, okay? Automatically. I realize, I turned my back on everything. I ruined the oneness. That's what the thought of separation tells me. You ruined oneness, right? And automatically, I perceive the Creator as being angry. Now he's going to get me. All right. I'm afraid. And my ego mind now, the part of my mind that is connected to the ego thought system of separation, automatically feels the guilt, and my ego mind says, oh yeah, I get an idea. Let's get out of here, all right? So God won't find us. And he's talking about let's get out of the mind. So let's project into something else. So we create the universe, all right? Which I always think is equivalent to it. Adam and Eve, once they ate the fruit and they knew they was screwed, they went running to hide amongst the trees. Well, the universe and all its billions of distractions, gazillions of distractions. There's the trees. All right. And everything, we bring the fear with us. All right. We bring the guilt and the fear with us. All right. So everything now, even though I made it, I made up the world, which I forget that I did that. All right. Now everywhere I turn, there's something threatening. Something is threatening me. And, you know, you may be among the people in the world who say, I'm not afraid of anything. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Okay. It's impossible to be here and not be afraid unless you have connected with that part of the mind that remembers who you really are. All right. Jesus speaks to us in one of the lessons, I believe it is, when he says, all you who roam the earth, uncertain, lonely, and in constant fear. All right. And that's everybody. No matter how well people hide it. All right. So your world is seen through the eyes of fear. And it brings the witnesses of terror to your mind. So everything that our senses report to us, all the sights and sounds, eventually, I mean, some are nice, sure. Some are happy. But in the long run, this is a terrifying world. And in, you know, February of 2025, this world is reaching a crescendo of fear, in my opinion. Okay? All the outside things in the world, right? All the parts of the illusion are blowing up with reports of fear, right? And uncertainty and unsafety. And if you find yourself angry, try to remind yourself that anger is a reaction to fear. The foundation of anger is fear. Right? If I'm afraid of a snake, oh, I hate that snake. I hate snakes. Right? The hatred rises up. All right? So our world is seen through the eyes of fear. That's the ego filter on things. And it brings the witnesses. It tries to prove it. Yeah, you're right, Kev. You're right. You're separated, and this is a scary place. You're on your own. All right? Make a right at the light. Keep going straight until night. And from then, boys, you're on your own. See, my mind goes off like that. I have to bring a Bruce Springsteen reference in there. So the real world cannot be perceived except through the eyes that forgiveness blesses. So the real world, right, your real existence, cannot be seen unless there is forgiveness, the change of perception, right? The real world cannot be perceived except through eyes forgiveness blesses. So they see a world where terror is impossible and witnesses to fear cannot be found. So even in these current circumstances, okay, I can perceive a world where terror is impossible. All right? Through the practice of forgiveness. I mean, I have to notice all those thoughts. I'm afraid of this. I really hate this guy. I'm I'm really angry at this. How could they be doing this? All those reactions, I can take them to that place in my mind that knows unconditional love, that knows my true existence, right? And yet sees what I'm involved in. I can go to that place in my mind and ask, help me perceive this situation through the eyes of peace. Right? I want to see, I'm willing to see correctly. The willingness is a big part. Okay? I can say, I want peace, like a mantra. Right? But until I am really willing, right, to experience peace, right, it's going to take a while. But it doesn't, it's not that difficult to check yourself. Am I just mouthing the words because I'm afraid? You know, like that's the way some people use prayer. You know, they don't pray until they're scared. Right? Like that old saying, there are no atheists in foxholes. So in the midst of a war, there's, you know, when you're under attack, there's no atheists. Everybody's praying. All right? But during your life, all right, at any moment, you can check yourself. Do I really want to experience peace? Do I really want to experience that peace that gives way to truth? Right? And it's possible. I mean, after a while, you will want that. Because after a while, you see that nothing else works. All right? That's why Jesus says there's many roads on, right? On some you travel daily for a while. And then he adds, perhaps you'd like to try them all. All right? But then he says, you'll see that they all go to the same place. They go nowhere. All right? And at that point, we are sincere in our petition. Help me to see correctly. So the real world cannot be perceived except through eyes forgiveness blesses. Right? And it is possible. This is not a fairy tale. Right? This is not some, you know, play in educational words or highfalutin poetry. This is telling you what you can do. I remember taking some classes, which is now almost 50 years ago, with a Taoist master who's still teaching. And he said, and I will not mimic his accent, he said, everything is theory until you practice. So this whole entire set of books is theory until you practice. Okay? So the real world holds a counterpart for each unhappy thought reflected in your world. A sure correction for the sights of fear and sounds of battle which your world contains. The real world shows a world seen differently. Through quiet eyes and with a mind at peace, nothing but rest is there. There are no cries of pain and sorrow heard. That's the second time I misread that line. There are no cries of pain and sorrow heard. For nothing there remains outside forgiveness. And the sights are gentle. Only happy sights and sounds can reach the mind that has forgiven itself. Okay. Now this is, believe me, this is a possible state of existence. Okay? All right. The fool on the hill. All right, sees the world going by and is unfazed. We can reach that existence with desire, the desire to do it, right? The willingness to be shown, the willingness to put down what I think is correct. And allowing truth to arise in my awareness. The real world shows a world seen differently, all right? Nothing but rest is there. All right? For nothing remains there outside forgiveness. No matter what is going on, it can be seen through the eyes of forgiveness. Don't try to figure out what it looks like. Just be willing to see correctly. Just be willing to have what you think is right, what your perception is. Be willing to have it corrected so that you will be at peace. You will see that you're not guilty, they're not guilty. Right? Whatever monstrous actions they are taking next, you will understand what's happening and be unfazed, because you will understand where you really are, what your status is. All right? Nothing real can be threatened. Right? Your spirit is real. Right? The opening introduction of the Course in Miracles. Nothing real can be threatened. One of the things that's real is your spirit, you. All right. Your spirit, your soul is real. And it cannot be threatened, no matter what our senses are reporting to us. That's the awareness we're trying to reach, all right? So that you will be able to rest in peace, as Jesus says. Jesus says, rest in peace is for the living. All right? So we can rest in a peaceful mind despite what's happening around us. And it doesn't mean that you're just detached from the world. All right? If you need to act or say something, you'll be able to, but you'll be coming from that place of knowing. Only happy sights and sounds can reach the mind that has forgiven itself. Because once I am willing to see the truth about you and the situations, right, the idea of innocence, the idea of no guilt rises up, and that includes me. I am not guilty. So the mind that has forgiven itself that no longer projects guilt. There's no need for it. That's why there's no need for time after that. So that is a possibility. That's the goal that we're aiming at here, is that state of mind, right, where nothing real can be threatened. And nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. It's not just a beautiful saying. It's really a possibility. Let's go there. Let's go there together. Because in the mind that has reached that, he says, what need has such a mind for thoughts of death, attack, and murder? What can it perceive surrounding it but safety, love, and joy? What is there it would choose to be condemned? And what is it that it would judge against? Right. So in the mind that has forgiven itself, there's no need for attack thoughts. No need to project guilt. There's no guilt. All right? There's no need to throw my brother under the bus. All right? It was him, it wasn't me. Oh my God. How my mind works. Now we're talking back to the 1950s, okay? I'm in grammar school. I think I'm in second grade, and the principal of the school, is in a rage, and she's lined everybody up in the hall because somebody put the centerfold from Playboy at the door of the convent. Oh, the horror. And this little nun, Sister Miriam, with her rosary beads clicking, right, and her heels clicking, going up and down the hall, with all the boys lined up. And she goes, and she just so totally terrified a lot of people. She goes, I am going to find out who did this. Was it you? Was it you? And she gets to this one kid. She goes, was it you? And he's really letting it all go. He goes, yes, it was me. And it was him and him and him. So he threw everybody under the bus. All right, but in the real world, there's no need to project guilt because we have asked for a change of perception. All right? We don't need to murder anybody. We don't need to throw them under the bus. All right? Just to alleviate our feelings of guilt. All right? Okay, where am I? Have to bring myself out of the school, okay? Okay, what need has such a mind for thoughts of death, attack, and murder? What can it perceive surrounding it but safety, love, and joy? That's it. You will not perceive anything but safety, love, and joy. This is not a fairy tale. This is not, as Ken Wapnick would say, in the word that he so proudly coined. All right? We're not talking about bliss ninnies here. All right? It's just everything is we're in a state of bliss now. All right? There's a lot of stones that have to be moved before you get to that state. All right? But you'll get to that state where you're totally unafraid and you're totally joyous because you know your connection, you know your status, so to speak. As Jesus would proclaim, I and the Father are one. All right. And he's telling everybody around you, you're the same. You're the same as me. I'm no big deal here. I just realized it before you did. And so the ego gets afraid of that and has to kill him. Okay. What is there that it would choose to be condemned? And what is there that it would judge against? The world it sees arises from a mind at peace within itself. No danger lurks in anything it sees, for it is kind, and only kindness does it look upon. The real world is the symbol that the dream of sin and guilt is over, and God's Son no longer sleeps. Right? So once again, the real world is a symbol, just like in the first sentence. And it's a symbol that we use, right, to say this is the state of mind when that dream of sin, that dream that I separated from God, when that dream which brings the guilt and the fear, so that dream of sin and guilt is over, right? And God's Son no longer sleeps. His waking eyes perceive the sure reflection of his Father's love, the certain promise that he is redeemed. All right? That's what my eyes will see, a reflection of my Father's certain love. Okay? There's a lot of us boys who live our lives in uncertainty, uncertainty that our fathers approved of us, all right? Or thinking that I disappointed my father in some way, all right? And we spend, many years of our lives thinking that way. That's just another stone that has to be removed. But metaphorically, all right, we reach the point in our mind where we realize the approval of our Creator. We realize the love that surrounds us from the Creator. That's the state of mind we can attain here, right here, in our existence here. It is quite possible. His waking eyes perceive the sure reflection of his Father's love, the certain promise that he is redeemed. There is no sin, there is no guilt. The real world signifies the end of time, for its perception makes time purposeless. There's no need for time anymore, because the only time is now. All right. And guilt and fear are gone. Guilt is the past and fear is the future. There's no need for it. We know it's illusory. We know it's not true. All right. So the real world signifies the end of time. For perception makes time purposeless. The Holy Spirit has no need of time when it has served his purpose. Right? We use time to escape time, as they say. We use everything that we encounter in the world of time and space. Everything can be used to help us achieve this moment of clarity by bringing it to the right mind, bringing it to the Holy Spirit. Any way you want to put it, talking to Jesus about it, or whatever name you give to unconditional love. You could just bring it to that place in the mind, standing in the light, as some people would say. Okay. Everything, bring it, shine a light on it. Help me to see it correctly. That's using the world. That's the Holy Spirit's purpose. Right? So when it has served his purpose, all right, there's no need for it anymore. Now he waits but that one instant more for God to take his final step. And time has disappeared, taking perception with it as it goes, and leaving but the truth to be itself. Okay? Once again, these are metaphorical statements. God doesn't take steps. All right? So when we reach that point, all right, where time has served its purpose, all right, now the Holy Spirit just waits that one more instant for God to take the final step, which is basically just the blending in with and remembering who you really are. All right. As the saying goes in the text, you see the face of Christ, which is innocence, which is the end product of the process of forgiveness. You see the face of Christ and you remember God. You remember everything of who you are. Right? And that takes perception with it, leaving but the truth to be itself. That instant is our goal, for it contains the memory of God. That instant is our goal. With every time I bring something to the right mind, and I'm willing to see it correctly, right? I'm working toward that instant, right? That contains the memory of God. As we look upon a forgiven world, it is He who calls to us and comes to take us home, reminding us of our identity, which our forgiveness has restored. All right, so this is once again very poetic metaphor. All right. And as we look upon a forgiven world, all right, it is He who calls to us. All right. It is God who comes to take us home and reminds us of our identity with a capital I. Our true identity, which forgiveness has restored. The emphasis on forgiveness throughout this little section here, these 5 paragraphs. I'm willing to see correctly. I'm working toward that instant when the memory of all that is returns to me. And in the human condition, we're on a deep level reluctant to meet that instant. Just keep working at it. All right? You'll see the world will give you more and more opportunities to desire that instant. And once again, I have to make another song reference because every time I hear Peter Gabriel singing Salisbury Hill, I am brought to tears. I mean, every time I hear it, since the song came out a bazillion years ago, because the eagle flies out of the night, right? He says, climbing up to Salisbury Hill, right? I could see the city lights, right? Then he hears the sound. The eagle flies out of the night. And the eagle says to him, take your things. I've come to take you home. Grab your things. I've come to take you home. That lyric sends me into a sob. Right? And this is what I perceive when I hear that. It is God who calls to us, and He comes to take us home. All right? Stop, He said. Forget your things. I've come to take you home. Or you can leave your things, whatever. Okay. Thank you for being here. And I will see you in the next question. Bye now.